All right. What's going on, everybody? How's everybody doing? Welcome to Local Musicians XP. I am your host, Chris Burroughs, and my trusty co-host has some things going on. He's going to try to hopefully shoot in a little bit later, but we've got a special guest, maybe two. We'll see what happens. That's going to be here for your listening and viewing pleasure. So thanks for joining us. We were off last week. We were having some technical difficulties, man. It just happens in this business. So, but we've regrouped. We are all set. We've got our man Falgu backstage for any last minute needs that we may have. He is back to being 100% after traveling over to Ireland and being with his people that drink Guinness and go to pubs all day long and party and stuff like that. So he's back 100%, and everything is back to normal. We've got some people that are already hanging in the chat. So oh geez, it was close, but Brad Thomas wins. First comment of the night. What's up, Brad? John, you were a close second, man. It was that close. It was that close, man. But Brad beat you to it, man. Brad is a master of showing up. Listen, Brad used to take drum lessons from me on Saturday mornings, and this cat would be 30 minutes early to the lesson. That's Brad Thomas for you. So you just can't beat a cat with time like that, man. I think somewhere out there, now you didn't hear this from me. I'm just saying what I heard. They call that Asian time. We have Asian time, I think Asian time is early, white time is on time, black people time is late. So we're going to give Brad Asian time on that. 30 minutes early to the lesson. So we're just having some fun here, guys. Listen, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That means a lot to us. Like this video, share this podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, and give us a thumbs up, man. You can also set your notification bell for when we go live or when we drop new material. Brian has edited down the first version of the Neal Starkey series. Here we have part 2 tonight, but the first version has been edited down very nicely. That is sitting up on YouTube right now. So if you guys want to check that out later or share that is up and is ready to go. And we will also have this episode edited down, I'm sure, at some point very soon. So we will have part 1 and part 2. So I had a great weekend down in Hilton Head, South Carolina, playing at the Jazz Corner. Shout out to the Jazz Corner and Kelly and all the great people down there. What a great club. It's been a while since I've been down there. Just a really, really, really special, intimate jazz club that just is becoming less and less all over the place, but let alone in the Southeast. So shout out to them. Great acoustic piano, great drum set, Gretsch drum set that sounded fantastic, that I believe was picked out by my brother, the great Quentin Baxter, who actually made an appearance and showed up. I got some cool pictures with my man. I haven't seen Quentin in so long, the master drummer, Quentin Baxter. So he was hanging out. Kevin Bales, our good brother Kevin Bales from here in Atlanta, was also down there. They were doing something for there was a jazz festival that they were having down there on Sunday and Monday. So they were down there, came down early for that, for our Saturday show, and was hanging out at the Jazz Corner. And then we also played with Joe. These are all shows with Joe Granston, of course. And we played in Brunswick, Georgia on Sunday. Did a nice little afternoon concert at what they call the Historic Ritz Theater. Had a great crowd for that too. So live music is alive and well. And shout out, great sound there. I forget what the sound guy's name was, but sounded good in there as well. So nice little weekend of music, and you can't complain when you get to swing, and you make a little change along the way. It was a great trip. My wife came down with me. She really enjoyed it. We stayed at the what is it, the Sonesta Hotel, 5-star resort down there, and that was beautiful. But something about when you're on the road, being on the road, it it can be very enjoyable. It can also be very enlightening, because it was great to you just get on the road, you listen to music, you kind of disconnect from everything else. You're not on your phone, you're not worried about this, you're not worried about that. You're just driving, you're listening to music, or you're listening to your podcast or whatever you're listening to. So it really gives you a chance to reflect and get some inspiration for maybe some things that you kind of want to do. I love to listen to Pat Metheny group when I'm driving, having long drives. I listen to a lot of Pat Metheny. Something about his music, man, is just so scenic, and it just goes with the road very well. And what was so funny was my wife told me to put on an album. I think it's This Way Is Up. I think that's it. It was in 2006. It was the first album with drummer Antonio Sanchez. Excuse me. And I hadn't heard that record in a minute, but man, kind of blew my mind hearing the level of proficiency that those cats are playing on that album. I think it's called This Way Is Up. Brian, can you look that up? I think it's called This Way Is Up. I think that's what it's called. It's got like a red stripe on it. My late great friend, great guitar player Eddie Wright was a huge Pat Metheny fan, and when that album came out, he was like, "Man, you got to check this album out, man. You're not going to believe some of the drumming on here." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." And I remember hearing it and just being absolutely mesmerized by what I was hearing. But for those cats to be playing on that level, playing that stuff live is just ridiculous. So anyway, enjoyed that. If you hit the road and you're on the road, what's some of y'all's favorite music to listen to? I know some people have go-to stuff that they like to check out. So if you want to drop that in the chat, please do so. So we got some cats in the chat. Rich, what's going on? How you doing? Good to hear from you. Podhorser, what's happening with you? Yes, The Way Up. Incredible. Just beyond, I mean, the drumming, the playing, the whole thing is really one long song, and it has different movements to it. But just incredible playing. So shout out to my wife for bringing that up and telling me to put that on. That was cool. Lamatina says Tower Power, Miles, and Basie is his favorite stuff to listen to when he's driving on the road, when you have road trips. What's some of your other what everybody's go to for the road trips, man? What y'all like to listen to? All right. So I think we've done the housekeeping. We've talked about the weekend. I don't even think I need to do any kind of big intro. The man was here a couple of weeks ago. We're bringing him back. We got a lot more to talk about. And let's go ahead and welcome to the stage the one, the only. I had the name backwards. It was on the tip of my tongue, and now I can't say it. So, how do you say your name backwards?
Lane Yuckrats.
Yane
Lane, Lean,
Lane
Yekrats.
Yak Rats. Lane
Yekrats.
Yak Rats. There it
Yeah.
is. There it is. All right.
Veritable
So,
cesspool of culture.
otherwise known as Neal Starkey. What's going on, Neal? I just spent freaking, it seems like 3 years with you. Not in a bad way, but Neal
Yeah.
was in the band and on the same the same little last road trip that I was on, going down playing in Hilton Head. Did you enjoy yourself, man?
Always. Always. Yeah. Get lots of sleep.
Right?
You know. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And get play on nice stages with great sound people. That that's
Right.
always a pleasure.
How'd you like the bass? Did you like the bass amp that was at Hilton Head?
The Jazz Corner bass amp. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
nice little amp.
Yeah.
Did it sound good on the drums?
I thought it sounded great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it sounded
Yeah.
great.
I love that club. It's a terrific place.
It really is, man. It's been a while since I've been down there. So I
Hmm.
have forgotten how intimate it really is. I was like, whoa, this is tiny.
Yeah.
For some reason I was
I
thinking it was
know.
a little bit bigger, but it holds what? How many do you think that it holds?
No clue, but packed every night, both shows.
Yeah, yeah, but not very many. 60 maybe
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
50, something like that. But the
Hmm.
food is great.
Oh yeah.
The service is great,
Hmm.
and the piano and the drums and the back line is great, and they do a great job. So shout out to our friend Kelly and everybody down there again at the Jazz Corner. So
Yeah, it's nice when you can hear each other on the bandstand.
it makes a huge difference, man. So when you did you ever do a lot of touring? Were you ever on the road like for extensive periods of time other than doing shows? I know when you would maybe do a show you would be gone, but uh did you ever have an extensive touring schedule that you
Well, depends.
Okay.
I was when the jazz scene fell apart in Albuquerque, where I happened to be living at the time. I went on the road with a Hawaiian trio, the Nada Lani, Nada and Nano trio, and he was a guitar player who sang, and she was a hula dancer, singer, and stand-up drums. She had great time, an excellent voice. She had had 8 kids, and you could not tell it. She was slender, beautiful, excellent time. It was like, wow. And we would be a week, maybe 2 weeks in a place. Now, maybe not so famous. They sent us north in the winter and south in the summer. And oh, yes, we played Las Vegas at the El Cortez from 2 to 6 in the morning with the 25-cent crap stables.
What?
This was in 1968. Oh, yes, we played Nevada Lodge in December. So, yeah, but
2
I
to
saw
2 wait a minute. 2
yeah,
a.m. to 6 a.m.
yeah,
Now, were you
yeah.
playing earlier? Were you playing earlier that night as well? Or
No,
okay.
no, no.
Wow.
I spent out the early parts of the time sitting in with, I sat in with a trio, the Joe Close trio. And apparently they were Pete Bar Beauty's rhythm section. And, he asked me if I wanted to go on the road, but I had already committed to a duo in Los Angeles. And so I felt bound to keep my commitments. Well, it turns out that they were the rhythm section behind Pete Bar Beauty, but not only that, they were in Aspen, Colorado, playing all kinds of big names all the time. So an opportunity missed, but it
Wow.
was a great trio.
Wow. And you said stand up drum, so it's just like a cocktail kit or something? Is that
Yeah, she played a cocktail kit. Yeah,
you don't see that very, very, very much anymore, the cocktail kit.
I
You know?
know, I know. Yeah,
Yeah. That's
But I saw
cool.
all the national parks, took lots of 35 millimeter footage at the time and all that. This was like 67, 68, 69. I moved
Wow.
to Atlanta in September of 69. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Is that the last so you never really did you were always mostly in town for
Well,
the
yeah, I was on the road with Chuck Mangione for about a month,
Oh,
um,
okay.
and almost went on the road with Buddy Rich, but that fell through. I think I couldn't make it to New York for the Johnny Carson show and Circus Circus, and so they found another bass player in New York.
Wait, okay. I didn't so when was that you almost did the Buddy Rich gig?
We had just gotten back from our honeymoon. I got married in September of 70, and we had taken a 7,000-mile tour of the United States in my little Volvo, and had gotten back into town. And guy said, "Hey, how would you like to audition with Buddy Rich?" And I said, "Oh, okay." Wasn't really quite sure who that was, but at the time, but said sure. So they brought these old bedraggled charts over and said, you know, they're a mess, but just play time and everything will be cool. So I auditioned with him at a place called Circus Circus on Cheshire Bridge Road. And he said, "Yeah, you want to go to Europe?" Because apparently he was firing his other bass player. And I said, "Yeah, okay."
And then you had to
So,
break the news to him that you couldn't go?
well, I named my price, which apparently was a whole lot higher than those guys were making on the road anyway.
Okay.
I didn't know anything about what the travel scene was with a big name band like that. So I said, well, this is what I'm making in town. If I can make that on the road with this band, way, I'll be glad to do it. In the meantime, I had to try to get my passport and all that kind of stuff because we were going to Europe. And so we're able to, in those days, you could actually get a rush on a passport. And so, I was struggling to get that and my shots and all that kind of stuff. And I said, I can't make it up to New York until Wednesday. My passport will be here on Tuesday. And I think not only the agent or the whoever was booking the band didn't like the price, but easy to get another bass player in New York City.
Man. So how do you think that would have gone, Neal? With Buddy's knowing Buddy's reputation. Um well, how would just the how do you how would you have seen that going in hind if you just sort of if you just have fun and your personality and knowing what uh he's liable to do, how do you think that would have gone?
Well, later on, I heard of his reputation for raking people over the coals, but um, yeah, it just didn't dawn on me. I wasn't experienced enough to really have a clue. And and when you work with people like Milt Jackson and the like, they may give you a hard time, and you just accept that as part of the gig.
Right, especially when you're young, right?
Yeah.
As a younger musician, you have to develop thick skin, I guess, right? As you would say, right?
Yeah, I'm sure the New York guys, probably already had a thick skin, but I'm a
Right.
country boy from Schenectady, so yeah.
Right. Right. Well, there was a lot of questions. We've got some questions that we had some guys ask on Facebook and then through
Mm.
email. But one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is some of the bands that you were really a part of, and especially here in Atlanta, there's been, I think, several, a few special units. There was this dude, it's a piano player. I can't, uh,
Dan Wall.
well, Dan, and then there was another guy, kind of balding kind of dude.
Hmm,
Can't remember. Started with a B, maybe. Is that is
I can't
uh
think of it. Yeah.
his name? maybe Bill something. I can't. Do you remember piano player?
I'd have to start looking through the 250 some odd
I think
piano
his first
players
name
I
was.
have
I
in my
think his
list.
first name was Bill. Bill.
You don't mean Bill Wilson? No,
No.
because he had hair.
Yeah. Really great piano player, man. I think Woody was maybe playing. Well, I shouldn't have said.
Oh, you
Keenan
mean Bill
was playing
Anschell?
drums. Bill
Bill
Anschell.
Anschell.
That's who
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
talking about.
Oh, that was much later. That was like in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was just talking about like basically some guys that you. Oh, wait a minute.
Whoa.
Hello.
How did I wind up here?
Yeah, good question. The 3-screen. I like it.
You know this guy?
Your face looks familiar, and I'm drawing a blank.
Neal, you're killing me.
Oh, Bill. Okay, there you are. Okay, with the headphones on, you look different.
Yeah, I got a
welcome.
blown speaker in my laptop. So
Yeah,
When's the last
welcome.
time you seen this guy, Neal?
Well, I've been out in Seattle a bunch of times and never could get together with him. And yeah, that would have been really, really fun. I really wanted to hear you, when Judy and I were out there on various trips, but when you're on, she doesn't really like to go hear music when we're on a trip. Is your son still playing sax?
a little bit. That's not what he's doing professionally. He works many hours on the job he has, and so he doesn't have a ton of free time, but he's still trying to play with people.
Another musician sees the light, gets a real job, makes real money.
Yeah, that's pretty much his story.
Yeah, I love your newsletters.
Oh, thank you.
Great.
Yeah, well, we've seen. I've shown Deb a couple pictures of you that Susan Rosemarin posted and stuff, and neither of us can believe how little you've aged in like 25 years since I left there.
Oh, no kidding. Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're just the same dude. It's weird.
Still enjoying music.
Time
Never
has,
get tired of it.
So
I don't know what I think about this fact that you failed. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just gonna say I used to go and check you guys out at Churchill Grounds.
Yeah. Were we playing together in the 80s or was it 90s?
I got to Atlanta, I think in 1989, and I left in 2002. So it was basically the 90s.
Yeah.
I think the couple gigs we all did with Nina right at the beginning were probably about 92.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, the European thing.
Yeah.
With her. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
I don't know what to think
quite a
about
while
you.
ago.
I don't know what to think about you failing the test here on Chris's cues, like who I am. I thought I was a little more memorable than that, but I'm going to give you a pass.
No, I forget names. I forget faces. I'm 83 now, so I'll be 83 in December. So
Man,
a lot of things slip. I'm taking pictures of people and putting names on them, so when facial rec comes in on the phone, I can come up and say, "Oh yeah,
oh, smart."
Man.
Yeah, well, the fact that you're still lugging a bass around at 83, 82 is just amazing.
Well, yeah, it's about 70 or 80 pounds worth of stuff.
God.
My cardiologist says, "Man, I don't know what to do with you, but you need to lose some weight and you need to do a bunch of exercises." So, okay.
Yeah, you've never been like a health food nut or anything, but somehow you're plugging along, man, in old age. I don't know how you do it.
Bill,
I love
it. How many albums do you remember how many albums you recorded with Neal?
Well, a bunch of Joe Granston records. And then Neal played on, he played on all the CDs I did while I was in Atlanta, which I think were 2 or 3. And we were sidemen for a lot of different people because I think a lot of singers and people like that would hire me to do arrangements, and then I would normally have Neal and Keena Boto on the projects.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but you did the 2 children's albums.
Right. Yeah, we did. There was that
so
label
we must have done at least 6.
Oh yeah, no, more than that. I'm sure there was that label Inner Sound that we managed to drive out of business, they they trusted me to do arrangements for a couple children's CDs, and then they were kind of a little more out than they expected.
They were great.
Hey, Bill, was there some Takadimi going on, man?
There was some Takadimi, yeah, definitely. Yeah, next thing we knew, they didn't exist anymore. But we also did a Christmas record for them, and we did a Rat Pack record for them. And you can find them online, and they've sold their label to other labels. It's a big mismatch at this point.
Oh yeah, his kids albums, you got to check those out. Those were spectacular. All the albums were great. Oh, did we do one behind the sax player?
Which one?
E.J. Hughes.
I don't think I played on EJ's CD. We did Rick Bell's CD, of course.
Yeah. I thought you were on EJ's album.
Maybe.
Because Keena was on it.
It might have been after I left.
Yeah, but I don't know any pianists that would have been on that album.
Okay.
I think it was you.
The other thing is I have like 40 CDs that Neal made of different live gigs we did at Churchill Grounds and
yeah.
He's kind of a maniac that way. How many do you have at this point, Neal?
You mean of personal CDs?
Yeah.
Hundreds, maybe 1,000 or two. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Anyway, I've got some highlights. I've got Eddie Davis on one night at Churchill with him, which was rare for. Did you know him, Chris?
Yeah, just barely, man. I kind of came in, on the tail end of you kind of being here, Bill, because I never, I wasn't really playing straight ahead stuff that much at that time. So, and I was definitely not good enough to play with you cats, but I would come hang out, and I would watch and check you guys out. So, but I knew Eddie just a little bit at the just at the tail end, man, of that, so he was great.
Who found that Jazz for Toddlers thing that just came up?
That's our trusty producer behind the scenes here, Brian Falgoux.
Impressive. Good sleuthing there. Yeah. So there were two volumes of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Chris, the only time I really did a straight ahead gig with you was the couple nights when I came back.
That was actually when I could actually play with you.
Yeah, no, that was really fun.
Finally. That was great.
Yeah, it was you and me.
That was Morgan.
Morgan and Kevin Smith. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, we hit on something, man, that could have. It just was a natural chemistry. I don't know what. Sometimes you just can't explain that. And then we did one thing with Joe. We did that live record with.
Oh, that's right. The thing that they videotaped and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
What became of that?
The CD came out. I don't know if there was ever any. I think something happened with the way the video footage maybe was shot. Was it too dark or something?
Oh, I think I remember something like that. Yeah.
The lighting was something happened with the lighting, but the CD definitely came out and there was definitely some nice moments on that.
That was with Craig, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it was Craig. But Neal, I just wanted to. Oh, go ahead, Neal. Go ahead.
Do you remember when we were doing Giant Steps and I was doing, I guess, some alternate lines, and then you rewrote the chords and I couldn't play those alternate lines anymore, and I was scratching my head trying to come up with a line that would be all different other than playing the normal line.
So I rewrote them based on what you had played, but then you couldn't read what you had played.
No, I couldn't play what I played and have it fit against your chords.
Oh, okay.
You had altered your chords to fit the bass line, and so then I really had to play the regular Giant Steps line because I couldn't come up with anything stranger to play against it.
Yeah, that was
very cool.
Yeah, there's something else I was going to mention to you. God, what was it? Memory.
It'll come back.
It'll come back when it's too late. But yeah.
Yeah. So I think you guys so you said you recorded 3 of your records and then a ton of. Did you guys play with Nina Freeline together
Yeah,
also?
yeah.
Was that yeah.
Neal
So it
did
was
that.
still the 3 of you. It was the same trio with Kina and you guys, right? With Nina,
For
right?
a little while, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I heard Kino's back on the scene again, huh?
He's yeah, you could say that. He's keeping a
he's
low he's he's keeping a low profile. I think he's only doing exactly what he wants to do.
uh-huh.
And but he's been doing, some stuff here and there with just various people. He just is real, he's got he's got 4 boys, got a family now, and
Yeah.
doing his business is going real well and stuff. So he only wants to, as he has always done, is doing what he wants to do. But
Yeah.
but yeah, you could say that he's, I don't think he's trying to do anything full time or anything.
Yeah, well, he's got that other job. But anyway, I'm glad he plays again. It's a big waste when he's not playing drums.
No, man, no question, man. No question.
I remember what I was going to tell you, Neal.
Yeah.
I learned a ton of tunes from you. I mean, the changes that I play on a lot of standards are just, we had the gig with Joe for so long where we were trying different tunes and stuff. And so I got the Starkey changes in here largely. And then the iReal book comes out. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I hate it. And it's like, do I want to play Starkey's universal body of osmotic knowledge changes? Or do I want to play these crappy changes that, some iReal book person put in there? Kills me.
You mean they force you to play that out there? Where?
Oh yeah, there are gigs with singers here where they put together a notebook and it's all the iReal charts for every tune they do in order, and all you do is you flip the page and then you read these chords that are shitty. Can I say that? Yeah.
Yes, you can.
And
You can.
yeah, it's just one after another. It's like a factory. It's for people who play by looking at names of chords. You know what I mean?
That's incredible.
I'm not a fan.
No.
Yeah.
What's
really
your
big
take on
here.
that, Neal?
I don't know what it's like.
Yeah, it's big here. It's big here. It's everything is I was talking to someone about this last night, where everybody's with the phone, right? They got their phone and they're buried in their phone. And Neal and I were talking about this also. And Neal, you were saying, once if they look at it once, you kind of give them a pass. But when the same tunes keep coming up and they're still looking at the phone, that's where you can't. What's your take on that? I know you had some interesting things to say about that, but
well, yeah, music as a crutch. If you get stuck always having to read the music, but it may be a personality type that needs to have that reassurance.
I just hate that the presence of the iReal book is kind of stopping people from using their ears. They don't have to be able to transpose by ear. They can just change the key. They don't have to be able to learn tunes by ear. So it's kind of like, it kind of goes hand in hand with a very kind of factory-like production of some musicians nowadays. Mm-hmm. You learn the scales, you learn the chord names, and you do that. It kind of drives me nuts. Mm-hmm. But my big question is, what do you do on a gig when they got these shitty iReal book changes? There's a bass player, say you're me. Bass player doesn't know the right changes, so he's going to play those bad changes no matter what, right? So then what do? Do I play the bad changes too, or do I hold my ground?
No, you do what Bill Anschell does best and play an alternate chord that sounds great with the voice with
their
treble
bad
note and still uses the wrong bass note on the top.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Anyway, that's part of my life. Not a good part.
Wow. I remember when you first went out west that they were very adamant about you reading charts, and you say, but I know these tunes. Giant Steps is a piece of cake. What's the big deal,
Yeah. Anyway,
it's everywhere, Bill. It's not just
Wow.
It's not just where that's how it, just like you said, because people aren't willing to. I mean, if you don't know something, like, it's really not a big deal, right? It's like you if you're working with the right people, they're going to kind of feed you. They're going to feed you the tune anyway. So you just absorb it, and then you go back and you work on it later. And then the next step is that you're ready for it the next time it comes around. But man, if people, they just won't they don't want to take that. I think part of it is because people are so conscious of being filmed, of being videoed now.
Oh, that's another thing.
And nobody wants to look bad. So there's this thing about, like, always having to be like perfect, all the time, and that's what's taken away from, think about how many things that we love in all genres of music, but a lot of times what they would play was a mistake. And that's how they came up with those cool parts, or or somebody was improvised, one finger snap, the head that's improvised. It's not like it was written. It was Freddie playing what he was hearing in the moment. That's
Is that right? I didn't know that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's like things like that. You're like, well, that would never happen if somebody handed a page to and just notes to play. It's like, I don't know, but
plus there's no potential for interaction, which I know Neal likes a lot. How can you interact with somebody who isn't using their ears and is glued to whatever chord names are laid out for them? It just turns it into a much more mechanical kind of process.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Well, man, Bill, I don't want to keep you, man, but we are going to have to, when my man Tyrone gets back on the scene here, we got to bring you back and have a long chat about the modern world of being not just a piano player, but just a working musician in these days, and how different it is than when we were trying to come and just getting your butt kicked on stage, dealing with it, man, and it just made you better.
Yeah, no, I'm into it. Anytime.
Well,
cool.
Bill, we're now the Jazz South series. Are you doing anything like that out west?
No, I did. After I moved here, I did about 2 more of those CDs, and then it was over.
Oh, that was a great series. Wow. Yeah.
I'll tell you something funny. That it got more airplay. Chris, this is a radio show I used to produce that we actually put out on CD, and it featured kind of lesser known Southern artists.
Oh, okay.
And it was broadcast all over the world, and especially in Colombia. And I actually went to Colombia and played there, and they took me to a library where the contact for Jazz South had preserved all the CDs and everything. It was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, I've probably video bombed this thing enough. I'll let you get back to the guest of honor here.
Beautiful. No, man. Thank you.
Yeah, Bill, we'll see you soon, man. Thanks for coming on.
Good to see you guys. Thanks.
Okay, man. You too.
Bye.
Okay, man. Yeah.
Neal.
Amazing.
There you go.
Wow.
You never know who's going to show up, man.
Yeah. No, he was excellent. A very welcome addition to the Atlanta scene. And he had this sixth sense of how to play stuff with Joe. Joe had kind of tempo, but he really wanted it slightly faster than that. And Bill knew exactly what to do with all of that stuff.
Man, I wish I had been good enough to play with you guys back then. I would have learned so much.
You probably were and just didn't know it.
Not at that time. I was not.
Really?
No.
Wow.
Dude, no way, man. No way. Wow. No way. I mean, it was just a pleasure to come and check you guys out, So but let's talk about a couple of other people, man, that you've worked with. You mentioned a pillar name to me the other day that you played with as a teenager, and that's one Herbie Hancock. And can you talk a little bit about that story of you playing with Herbie when he was a teenager?
Yeah, I was playing there were two Roth's jazz clubs in Atlanta. One was in Schenectady. One was downtown and one was in a community called Niskayuna, and he played at the one downtown. I think he really just sat in with us with Nick Brignola, and he was sounding like a lot like Bill Evans type stuff. But then 6 months later, he got hired by Blue Note, and the next record that I heard him on Blue Note, he was like the Blue Note pianist, and I'm like, wow, this guy can, like change his whole style, just bam, like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
What year was this when you, I mean, can you approximate like when that was that you first played with him?
1960, 61, maybe 62, somewhere in
Dang.
there.
Wow.
So I guess he might have still been a teenager then.
His first record is it Speak Like a Child? Can you look that up, Brian, and see when I think Speak Like a Child is the first Blue Note Herbie record, which is one of my favorites. And I can't remember. I think that was 60. Seems like that was 61. So you're probably about right on in terms of when he
I'll write that piece of data down so I can add
but
that.
Brian will look it up, but I think it was like around, I think that's 61.
Yeah.
Now you also played with Tony Williams. Didn't you play with Tony, right?
That was later on. That was in Atlanta. It was for a CBS international convention downtown in the I think the Turner, one of the Turner Stadium things downtown. George Duke, Tony Williams, Herbie Hancock, Al Di Meola, Ralph McDonald, Benny Golson, Bobby Humphreys, Hubert Laws, I think Freddie Hubbard was on that. Marvin Stamm and the New York Brass, Jay Chataway. I'm forgetting one of the sax players, but
okay,
yeah, that was very, very fun.
Actually, James Ellison, Herbie's first record was Taken Off. There it is, right there. That's 62. Is that right, Brian? So Speak Like a Child had to be what, 63? Something like that. So you played with him just before
just before
he got that. Yeah, he got the deal. That's crazy.
Yeah. So how old is he then?
I don't know. Brian had to look that up too.
Yeah,
19 maybe. Oh, Speak
Wow.
Like a Child is later. That's 68. I was thinking that was that was 63.
I'll be darned.
But that's cool. And then you played with Tony, you said later. Was that in the 80s maybe? Was that the 80s?
The Tony Williams thing was that whole CBS thing, and I don't remember. I don't think they ever released that album, and I do not remember the date of the convention that we played. But
okay,
yeah.
All right. So James said Tony Herbie was born in 40, so he had to be 22 when that would take off.
Nice.
Came out.
Great playing. I mean, from Bill Evans to the Blue Note players, and almost like Insto Changeo. And then when he got the Columbia thing, all of a sudden it was this whole new world of Herbie Hancock. It was like, wow.
Yeah. Right. And then also Freddie Hubbard, was that the same session, the session with Tony, or was that something different?
No, that was the same CBS Jazz All-Star thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And I don't didn't he have some kind of a lip thing that kind of put him out of playing somewhere in there? I don't remember when all of that happened, but
that's a good question. I'm not sure. James Ellison might know.
Yeah.
A
data guy. Good.
Yeah, we got some cats that have some knowledge around. So all right. So let's I got some questions for you, Neal.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna pull up so we'll start with the first one that we got, which is from John Lamatina. He says, Neal, what major changes, if any, have you observed in the Atlanta jazz scene since you made Atlanta your home? Thanks.
When I came to Atlanta and actually got more on the scene in, say, the 70s, there was a very vibrant jazz scene. Dan Wall was on the scene, James Martin, drums, Carl Rotzer, I think, came to town somewhere along there. And there was a really nice high energy scene. EJ's Jazz Club was there, so we got to play with a lot of names and semi-names. But then in the 80s, it's almost like there was this, everything sort of disappeared, and there was essentially no jazz scene until about the time that Bill Anschell came to town, when the jazz scene started reviving some. And then it kind of seemed like it took a dip of not much happening until into the 2000s, when it took off, and now it's really taken off, and there's a lot of really great players around. It just could be that the customer isn't willing to support it or something, that the whole scene dies for a while. Yeah, kind of like Dixieland. When I first came to town, Dixieland music was hot. Then it disappeared, and then it popped up for a little while, and then it disappeared. And in recent years, it's there's been some.
Wow. Okay. We got another question from Rich Ambler. He actually had several questions, so I'll just kind of pick one here to start with. And he asks, he says that you ran into Dave Holland, the great bass player Dave Holland, at one point. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know he put that in the comments. There it is. So
cool.
Ran into Dave Holland. They had a discussion. Would you like to reveal that? What you guys talked about? One thought he mentioned was very interesting: Dave's role as a bass player. So, any insight into that conversation with Dave Holland that you remember?
Yeah, and essentially John Patitucci said the same thing. I'm like Mother Hubbard to the band. I keep things stable, and then everybody else gets to go wild. By the way, I was in Florida with Bill Anschell and Keena on a gig playing the city where the Truman Story was filmed. I don't remember the name of it now, but in my conversation with Dave Holland, he was talking about being the Mother Shepherd or Mother Hubbard of the band to keep things stable.
Wow. In terms of your role as a bass player, is that what you're
yeah. When I played with Lynn Ariel, it was interesting, her comment, because her thing was piano and drums. And when I started exploring things, she said, well, no, I really, my dialogue is with the drums and not so much with the bass. Maybe Bill Evans with Scott LaFaro was a dialogue with the bass, but mine is not that.
Okay. I mean, is that what you believe your role is as well? Or, so are you agreeing with what they were saying in terms of what the role of the bass player is in the band?
I would say I understand that role. but I don't necessarily play that role. I mean, I'll follow the rules to a certain extent, but I mean, for example, when I do big band stuff with Joe, if I don't like the bass lines, I play my own stuff. And if it doesn't fit, then then I have to go back and alter to fit things. But yeah, I've been always been sort of more exploratory than that.
Well, that's kind of like where I was going, and what when Bill was on, he was kind of saying is, now with the the iReal Pro or whatever, it's like there's these stock changes that people are are kind of like a slave to, right? Or that's what they haven't. Part of that is why they haven't listened to any of the recordings, because there could be,
oh yeah,
there could be several like I remember when I was first started getting into trying to really learn tunes, I would think, oh, there's one recording of softly as in a morning sunrise or whatever,
yep,
right?
yep.
And then later I'm finding like there's 100 or more of, these songs have been, redone by so many different people with different arrangements, different time signatures, different keys, different whatever. And, but I think like what you guys were doing was, okay, this is the tune, but we're going to kind of do our own thing with it on the spot. And that's what I feel like you excel in, and what you want to hear. You want to take it somewhere different. You don't have any use for just playing, the whatever the stock parts are. It's like, I mean, what's the point of that, right?
Yeah, I'm not so much into assembly line work, just to recreate it exactly like the track that was done 60 years ago. I mean, yeah, I love to explore. I love it when Tyrone goes for broke and finds things that I can't hear, and so now I got to figure out, oh, what is he doing, or Kevin Bales go
Right.
goes in these directions, or Kenny Banks or Kenny Banks Jr. or Lewis. I mean, it's like, wow, you know, where can we go with all of this?
Where can you, right? So but why do you feel like, I mean, I don't know, you kind of touched on it earlier, but why has that become a lost art? Why do you think, I mean, I don't really, I just I do think it has something to do with people afraid to make mistakes. Nobody wants to be the guy that played the wrong note, or played, the wrong beat, or played anything. It's like the judgment thing, I think, is just really in a really weird place right now,
Yeah, that could be the college graduate thought pattern where you'd have to do things perfect, exactly right. Um, yeah, the fear of making a mistake, I guess, makes a lot of sense. And well, I think what's crucial is the amount of work that you would have to do in listening to all these different records. Are you going to buy all these different CDs, or are you going to pay Apple for all these different versions of the same song? That's a lot of work, and I can imagine people wanting to shortcut that, and just settle on one thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Um, there's another question from Rich. He says, "What famous players have you enjoyed playing with? When and where?" That's kind of a
Well, yeah, what I would just say yes. I've I've enjoyed them all,
right.
including the cats that came up from New York City and were playing in this club, and I sat in. I mean, as a band, they just sounded great, And I sat in, and all of a sudden the time was squirrely, and the chords weren't making sense, and they were just messing with me, and I just had to barrel ahead and get through it. And then when they realized that they weren't going to be shake me, then everything straightened out. But yeah, there's so many wonderful players out there that how can you not want to play with all of them?
Right, right. Do you think? I mean, I had a question. Do you think is it a blessing or a curse that you can hear all of these alternate things, and then you're playing, sometimes having to play with people who can't hear what you hear? I go through that sometimes as a drummer, where I want to superimpose another rhythm over another rhythm, as we often do together, you and I. When I play with you, I'll play a layer something over something, and you just have this huge smile on your face, like,
Oh
okay, let's
yeah.
go,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
and then you, in turn, it will make you do something a little bit different. So, but when and you, oftentimes you'll feed me or whoever you're playing with something different, and when you don't get that response, um do you feel like it's a blessing or a curse to be able to hear all those things like that? Or do you think, what do you think about that? I don't know if I'm making
No, I
sense
know what you're
when I'm
saying.
asking you. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Uh, I don't generally, I don't really get emotionally involved like that with what's going on. If it's you know you're settling into empathy or entropy. So if it's only going to, I hate to make qualitative things because I'm not really into those kind of judgments, but if it's gonna be dance band versions of songs, then that's what it's going to be, and that's just fine for the moment, because maybe the next with the next person that sits in or whatever, it's gonna be different. So yeah,
Mhm.
for me, it's not a judgment thing. It's just okay. What can happen here, and if nothing can happen unusual or swinging wise, just the pocket or whatever. I remember playing with Billy Mitchell, Scoey Mitchell's younger brother, I think, and he cooked like crazy, even though all his chords were very simple and straight ahead. And it was always a pleasure working with him, just because you knew that things were just going to roar.
Right. 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 um all right, we have another question from our trusty producer, who has been bothering me all night about asking you this question. No, I'm just kidding. He actually just sent a little reminder. Uh, are there any particular jazz albums that you return to for repeated listenings? That's a good one. I like that. Good question.
Hmm. In my early stages, it was, Bill Evans' Portrait in Jazz and Explorations. I wasn't that nutty about the Village Vanguard one, but those first two albums I really enjoyed a lot. Um, my first jazz album, I guess, was an Oscar Peterson thing with Liza Jane on it, and I really listened to that a lot. Uh, but I had 2,000, maybe 3,000 albums, and so to try to listen to all of those, I love some Denny Zeitlin stuff. I liked a lot. Actually, I think I had some Denny Zeitlin charts also. And then with the CDs, all of a sudden, it just opened up all these different vistas. And so I was listening to Morton Subotnick and Stockhausen and John Cage and all these other characters. So yeah, I like it all.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh, are you do you listen to much music today? Uh, Are you still listening to stuff, or what do you do for inspiration in terms of,
I would like to be keeping more up to date on what's going on, because I know Lewis will bring something in, and if he, if he thinks I don't know it, I think he doesn't want to do it, or if he, I'd want the changes, at least maybe fake book changes or something, so that I can get through it. I don't like slipping behind, because I know I've slipped
Mhm.
way behind in the pop music world, and I'd like to be somewhat more up to date on that in case I get a pop gig.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So now, did you? It's kind of off subject, but um, did you rewire your whole apartment?
No, not really. Where I'm living now, I had to make a big noise about Cat 6 cable, because you know, infrastructure is something that a lot of people don't think about. Now, when I was in my, I guess, late teens, I was working in a summer resort, and not only was I hired to do a waiter job, but I was hired to be in the band. And then there were these jobs of rewiring the living facilities where we were, because they needed more outlets. And so, because of my interest in electronics, the way that was not a problem.
But
Oh, the Ray
you did
Block
something
Orchestra.
where can't you didn't you do something about can't your remote control, like, didn't you? I thought you programmed some stuff in your place. Is that not right? It might be
Which place?
your in your part in your apartment. The
You mean where I live? Where I live
Where you live
permanently?
now, yeah. Mhm.
I don't remember. I know I've got like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 64 terabyte Drobo RAID arrays that I've had to, wire back and forth, and
Right.
and do backups and stuff. My last backup took a week and a half, because I couldn't get the high speed transfer to work, and I had to settle for USB 2, which is incredibly slow. But I did most of my rewiring was with my music pedals and the pickups
Okay.
that I'd make for my basses and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then for
Okay.
the ham radio stuff, of course, I was running 300-yard links of Protalin 50-ohm radar cable up a 125-foot tower. So I worked on those kind of things.
Wow. Wow. The many talents of Neal Starkey.
Mr. Gadget.
Mr. Gadget. I mean,
Yeah.
Bill brought up well, maybe we'll go ahead and close on this, but your infatuation with recording gigs is legendary, man.
Hmm.
I mean, there was a period, especially when you and I I guess we started to play together mid 2000s, maybe, or
Huh.
somewhere around mid 2000s. And I just remember, like, the next gig I would see you on, you had a CD of the previous gig.
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he's like, hey, here's a CD for you of the last gig we did. I was like,
I know we don't have CD players anymore. What a bummer.
now, what you were using your little portable recorder at that time, right? And then just bouncing it down to burning CDs.
Well, I originally started off with a half-track monaural reel-to-reel machine, and then eventually, when I got to Atlanta, cassettes were going strong. So I recorded a thing with the Bruce Hampton band in Piedmont Park, with 3 drummers, 2 bass players, guitar, sax, and something else. And then I recorded a whole bunch of gigs with the cassette. The
Yeah.
next thing that came out, I think, was was DAT recorders, digital audio tape recorders, and the
Mm-hmm.
little teeny tapes. So I did a whole bunch with those. But then I bought a mini disc recorder and started recording stuff on mini discs.
Right. That's
I
yeah.
stopped doing that when I put my portable mini disc in the piano, and the vibration of the piano and knocked the heads enough that I lost like a second or two of playing every so often when Ted Howell would hit the keys hard. So I stopped using mini disc recorders, and now, you can just use memory cards, and you don't have to worry
Mm-hmm.
about all those other physical problems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I still am a documenter, and still really into metadata and all that kind of stuff.
So do
Nothing.
you have and you keep all of this obviously in your computer, you have all the dates, you have the
Yeah,
band members, you log all of that information. So
yeah, yeah. I log as
pretty
much as I
incredible.
can. In the early days, actually, I had notebooks, and I would actually draw a picture of the band and where I placed the mic, within the band. But I don't do that anymore.
Wow. Incredible. Well, man, I think we're gonna go ahead and shut it down and let you go. We've enjoyed part two, and unfortunately my co-host couldn't make it because I know he had a bunch of stuff that he wanted to get into with you, but I guess we'll have to do a part three at some time, Neal. It's gonna be the interview that just keeps on going, man. Just
Excellent. Well, hello to Russ Rogers. I saw his note pop up on the
yep,
screen, and
yep.
that was fantastic bringing Bill Anschell on. And I'm amazed that I didn't recognize him, but I guess with the headphones
Well, it's
on,
hard to see. I mean, it's
yeah,
hard to see the screen a little bit too from
yeah,
because you're on your phone, right? Aren't you on your phone?
I am. Yeah, everything is
Yeah,
really, really small.
yeah. So,
But I also realize that there are a lot of things that are failing in my memory, that if they're not continually refreshed, that it gets
right.
harder and harder to recall stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a quite a long time ago, and it's like it's like when things are kind of out of sight, out of mind,
Hmm.
it just sort of changes your perception of like,
Yeah.
you know, what you remember and what you don't remember. So no hard feelings there. It was good to see him, and I'm glad that he came
Yeah.
on and
But he was so
uh
inventive with those kids records, and on his own records. I mean, nobody tries the tricks that he was trying
right,
on his records,
right, right.
other than
So
Carl Rotzer. Like the Carl Rotzer years were, that was wow. That was some high level playing.
right, right. Well, cool, man. Well,
Thank you.
you got any gigs this week that's coming up? I think you got a big band. I know you have a big band gig coming up Friday, right? Aren't you guys playing at Callenwald maybe or something? Or
Oh yeah, red light tomorrow, and then Friday I've got a trio thing for a men's club at lunch, and then Carla Harris. I guess it's a big band and that evening,
yeah,
and then
right.
Saturday is Chiraw, Southern North Carolina, the Dizzy
Oh, okay.
Gillespie's home, and then
Hmm.
Sandersville after that.
Okay.
I don't remember what I'm doing the following week, but yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of driving.
Hey, man, it's par for the course. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah,
uh, well, listen, Neal, thank you for your time, and
thank you.
I'll see you coming up here. I'm sure in the next couple of weeks or so. So,
Soon, I hope. Yes.
yes, absolutely. All right, thanks, Neal. We'll see you soon, brother.
Thanks again, man. Bye bye.
All right, bye bye. All right, have a hand for the great Neal Starkey, and also our just a great Bill Anschell, who I contacted today and was like, "Hey, man, why don't you come on and freak Neal out?" So and it kind of worked. So good to see Bill. We're gonna bring Bill back and have a hell of a discussion with him because I can already see where that's going. I can't wait for that. So we'll get the two piano players together And Bill is also a deep rhythm cat. So we'll talk some rhythm, and we'll talk some state of the union as far as where things are musically. And if you haven't checked out Bill's music, Bill Anschell, I believe he has a website, billanschell.com, I believe, but you can find all his CDs. I'm sure they're streaming. One of them, Cooler Heads Prevail, is a great record that features Bill and Neal Starkey, and also my brother, the great Kina Boto, on drums. So check some of those records out. And I think we are going to call it a night. Thanks for everybody that came in the chat. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, you can go to, if you're on YouTube, you can subscribe on YouTube. Hit your notification bell to know when we're live and when we drop new content. I'm sure our trusty producer will have this one edited before the night is over. No, I'm just kidding. I know he's got to go to work in the morning, but it will be soon. So you can have Neal Starkey Part 1, Neal Starkey Part 2, and just have Neal all for the rest of your life, man. There's never enough Neal to go around. So next week we'll be back with another episode. And then in 2 weeks, my brother Brandon Temple, the great Austin drummer, who's played with everybody, is going to be joining us for a great discussion. So Brandon Temple will be coming on. I think it's that last Tuesday in October that we're going to feature him and let y'all get to know the brilliant musician that Brandon is, man, and a great cat also. So with that, thank you everybody that was in the chat. There's my sister Jeanette. Thanks, Jeanette, for checking us out tonight. Everybody else in the chat, Brad, Russ, good to see you. Bob Boyce, James Ellison, Rich, John Lamatina, Kayla, the Podhorser, Sigwell. Thanks for everybody. And I'm sure there's more that have not. If y'all are here and in the chat, just say hello. Let us know that you're here, man, so we can shout you out. But thanks for everybody that has checked us out tonight. And we will be back next week, 9 p.m. And hope you guys have a great week. Peace.